From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening, and tonight we're following a high-stakes standoff thousands of miles from where we are. Here's what's going on. Those crowds in the main square in Cairo just got bigger again today. They say they will leave when President Hosni Mubarak leaves. Problem is, Mubarak's new number 2 says the regime isn't going to end. Mubarak isn't going anywhere for a while. And he said tonight Egypt can't put up with these protests for a long time. At stake, of course, control of Egypt, the future of that country, and both sides are well aware of that. Again tonight, we go first to our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, in Cairo. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. This standoff could be heading back to a confrontation. Tonight, the government put down a marker. It said it can't tolerate indefinite demonstrations, but the protests are getting bigger.
Crowds in Tahrir Square swelled to hundreds of thousands again, the biggest in days. Their demand remains unchanged. The crowds were also energized by an emerging leader, a young blogger and Google executive named Wa'el Ghanim, released from detention yesterday. Today in Tahrir Square, he said, "As long as you are standing here, you are all heroes." They're also inspired to keep going by images like this. An apparently unarmed protester shot in the street by police when the unrest began. The government seems to be accepting this movement is not going away and publicly embracing it, up to a point. The new vice president, Omar Suleiman, said today on television that Egypt is proud of its young people, but later warned that Egypt, quote, can't put up with continued protests for long, and there would be no ending of the regime and no immediate departure for President Mubarak. State television is also reinforcing a message of stability with non-stop patriotic programming, showing a harmonious, clean, high-tech Egypt. But not far from the state TV building where those idealized images are broadcast, Cairo looks starkly different. Narrow alleys, high unemployment, Cairo's chronic poor.
This uprising is about democracy and political reform, but also economics. There are huge discrepancies between the rich and poor here, with entire neighborhoods of millions living in poverty.
But just a few miles away are gated communities with multi-million-dollar villas, luxury getaways on Cairo's outskirts. The luxury communities were the first to be attacked and looted when violence broke out last week, when a political and economic time bomb, long simmering, exploded. The roots of this uprising run deep: poverty, government mismanagement, political repression. But many in Cairo are so poor they can't afford a drawn-out stalemate over President Mubarak's last few months in office.
As we've seen all along in this crisis, Brian, Friday, the day of prayers, could be a decisive one. Big demonstrations are scheduled.
And Richard, in this country last night, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, during an interview, was talking about the Muslim Brotherhood. You've been talking about them for days. It's believed that any coalition government will have to contain a percentage of them. And the speaker said that they were enemies of civilization. He said it's in their own creed. I know for many years you lived and worked alongside members of the Muslim Brotherhood there in Cairo. Tell us your knowledge of this group.
The group has about 20 to 40% support in the country. It's not Al-Qaeda. It's not the Taliban. They do support Islamic law, but the people who are members of the Muslim Brotherhood wear business suits. It's much more akin to Hamas in the Gaza Strip. It's anti-American, it's anti-Israel, but it wouldn't kick all the Christians out of this country, but it would definitely take a more anti-American line.
All right, Richard Engel, our veteran in that region, starting us off again tonight. Richard, thanks.